NFL Week 13 might have actually been the craziest, most entertaining, just kind of what the hell happened week so far this season between all these NFC East teams actually being good and winning, to just some upsets to some really bad blown games. It was one hell of a week. But of course, this is Fourth Long Radio. This is our NFL Week 13 breakdown. I'm your host, Ross Allen, joined alongside by NFL Guy.
The guy.
The guy. AK over here, Alexander Kropp. How you doing, man?
How's it going, Ross? Thanks for having me on again.
Well, we've had you the last couple weeks just like on the buy or sell segment, which is of course fantastic, probably the best part about the show sometimes. But it's going to be nice to have you to talk the full lineup of games. So it's going to be
What a
fun.
great week to get into it too. Such a fun week.
And with this, let's just get on to things, Alex, because why keep the fans waiting? First game that we're going to talk about is the Saints at the Falcons, a solid NFC South matchup. And I say solid because it's a divisional game. That's the only reason, though. But at least we got to see for the first time since 2016, Taysom Hill throws a passing touchdown. He actually throws for two of them in this. Of course, the passing touchdown was coming off of a 47-yard run because, of course. And then, so that was really cool for the Saints, not being as maybe they're almost two-dimensional instead of just
Yeah.
one-dimensional now. And then Younghoe Koo, AAF
The
legend.
GOAT.
Younghoe Koo continues to be the MVP for the Falcons. 3 field goals, is still the NFL's leading scorer, and is perfect 8-8 from 50 plus. What do you think about this game, though?
I mean, that's one of the most impressive stats ever. Just because when Young Koo was coming out of, I don't even know where the heck he was coming from, but when he first had those tryouts with the Chargers, he was really known for his short field goal accuracy and doing a backflip after he kicked. So
Well,
to
not
see
just
him,
that, but spinning the ball with his feet.
oh, that's
then
right. He did it
kicking
himself
and
too.
doing
Oh, that was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen with someone kicking a football. But I mean, he's really not known for to be one of these big distance guys like Greg Zuerlein or McManus or
Matt Prater.
or Sebastian Janikowski. So
Jano.
any of these guys, it's just crazy that he's this accurate from 50 plus. So at least they have one part of their team that's consistent. But
Well, I mean,
I
to
think
be fair, their defense is consistent. It's just consistently awful.
it's been ticking up a little bit ever since Raheem Morris came in. It's weird. It's like the Saints, the Falcons, the Cowboys, and the Seahawks. Ever since the middle of the year, when everyone kind of just anointed them the worst defenses ever, they've all been kind of playing pretty well, which is a little weird. But I think the biggest takeaway from this game is the Saints. I think they have the highest floor in the NFC when we're talking about the competitors for the NFC title. I think the Saints are the most consistent team. They're the most well-rounded team. You saw this week, Michael Thomas really got reacquainted with the offense in one of his first 100-yard games this year. So it sounds like Drew Brees is going to be coming back.
Maybe a couple weeks is what we're looking like right now.
Yeah, maybe the end of the regular season. Maybe he'll get a couple
So,
warm-up games in before the
check for
playoffs.
coming back from 13 broken ribs in a month. That's
Yeah, it's really impressive how he's doing, especially at his advanced age. And I don't think injuries are healing themselves at a rapid rate when you're 45 years old. But the Saints, I think they're the class of the NFC right now. With Taysom Hill at quarterback, they're going to be very consistent. They're going to win games by one score, by two scores, because he's not going to turn the ball over. He's going to run the clock. Defense is going to be able to get after him. This guy, people forget, he's an absolute tank when he's running the ball. So any short yardage, he's getting that. Goal line stuff is awesome. I think this will give them another package they can use that's more developed when Drew Brees comes back. So once Drew Brees is there, unlocks the passing offense with a healthy Michael Thomas and a healthy receiving core, and then you throw in Taysom Hill with a more developed set of plays and packages that he can run. I think this team's going to be dangerous, and I think they're definitely the favorite in the NFC right now.
clearly.
But we'll see once we get down to January and February if this holds up.
Exactly. Sticking within the NFC zone and flipping from the south, let's go to the north. Let's talk Lions at Bears, with the Lions taking this one 34-30. All thanks to the Chicago Bears, man. They just blew it. So listen to this, man. They're up 30-20 with 4 minutes left to go in the game. 99% chance of winning at this point. Lions put up 2 touchdowns in 4 minutes because after being up 38-20, of course, the Bears' next 2 drives, they go for a total of 6 plays for 4 yards and take only 4 minutes off the clock. Then, of course, the Lions go, they score their touchdown. Then, luckily, we had good old Mitch Trubisky fumbling within their own 20 to get the ball back for an easy score for the Lions. On the back of Matt Stafford, Adrian Peterson, Frank Gore kind of in the way of ageless wonder. This guy just keeps scoring touchdowns. Marvin Jones gets his best game of the season, too.
Yeah, and this was almost the exact opposite script that happened week 1 when the Lions were up a bunch, and then the Bears were. So I think these teams
thanks to DeAndre Swift dropping the easiest touchdown of his career at that point.
Doesn't that seem like it was years ago? But man, that was crazy a couple weeks ago. It's making me sad that football, the regular season's almost over.
Don't even talk about that. That's blasphemous.
Shedding little tears every Sunday. But,
we're not going to talk about it. We're just going to blissfully ignore it.
Okay, I like that. I like that strategy a lot better. But
thank you.
There's not much to talk about with these games or with these teams. I feel like it's just a broken record. They could play the same exact game for the last 5 years, and I wouldn't think anything's changed. It's impressive that the Lions got a win without Kenny Golladay. Usually that's not really a good mix, but Marvin Jones stepped up in his absence. Adrian Peterson he's almost just like a bigger, more athletic Frank Gore, because he'll get 20, 25 carries, 60 yards, have a horrible average, but they're just going to keep feeding him the ball because he's just an absolute tank and just never is going to break down, it seems like. So, these teams both need to blow it up. Lions have already started that process. Bears are just, kind of ignoring the inevitable right now. And,
as we talked about last show, man, it's just accept the tank. And then still, there are 2 guys that are at least if they're smart, they're not going to be on the team next year. Montgomery and Robertson, they're the only reason the Bears really put up any points this week and every week. But if we want to talk about putting up points, let's talk about the Browns and Baker Mayfield going to Tennessee and beating them up 41-35 in a game that should not have been this close. We have Baker Mayfield with a career game, 334 yards, 4 touchdowns, all in the first half. And Baker Mayfield becomes only the second quarterback in team history with 4 touchdowns in the first half. Can you guess the first one and only one, Alex? I'll give you a hint.
Y.A. Tittle or something?
I'll give you a hint. He invented the face mask.
Otto Graham?
Yes, in 62. I'm more surprised you know that he invented the face mask.
I know there's 2 old quarterbacks that are really good, Y.A. Tittle and Otto Graham, so it wasn't Y.A. Tittle, it's got to be Otto.
Exactly. But, this game was not, at least it should not have been like a 2-score game because the Browns are up 38-7 at halftime. And if I was the Browns, honestly, I'd be kind of worried about giving up this many points and putting up this little points in the entire half of football, especially after the first start. I didn't know what was up with that. But also, the Browns.
I think what we have to really start looking at is this Titans defense is really, really bad.
Yeah.
The past couple weeks, let's just run through the scores. So last week, 41-35, gave up 26 to Indy, 24 to Baltimore, 34 to Indy, 17 to Chicago, which I don't know if Chicago can score 17 points. 36 to Houston. These scores are just so bad, and I think it's something that's fundamentally wrong with the defense right now. They're missing. They lost Jarrell Casey this offseason.
Yeah.
They're missing their middle linebacker.
By loss, I mean failed it. It had the stupid trade to the Broncos where they got no value
for a 7th-round pick. Your franchise cornerstone for a 7th-round pick doesn't make any sense. But for a defensive-minded coach like Vrabel, he's now just turning every single game into a track meet. And I think one of the big takeaways I got from this game, though, is it gave me some confidence. I don't know if this was the Browns' game plan in the second half, but usually when you see a team like the Titans who relies so heavily on the run game, whenever they get down multiple scores, you almost can kind of just throw in the towel. But Ryan Tannehill kind of put up some points here. They made it way closer than it should have been in the second half. And I think this should give them some confidence, at least on the offensive side, that they can get back into a game if they're down a couple scores. The most glaring thing is their defense just looks so bad, so that's what they need to correct first. But
so the problem with that defense, though, there's 2 big guys they brought in this offseason, Alex. You remember Vic Beasley, Jadeveon Clowney. Let's talk about those 2. Beasley.
But same position.
Exactly. I mean, that's a different story with this. That's another bad part. But I mean, Vic Beasley, 1 year contract, $9.5 million, played 5 games and he was cut. Jadeveon Clowney, 1 year, $13 million, played 8 games, season-ending knee surgery. And the worst part about that is you bring these guys and you pay these guys specifically to rush the passer. And as Alex is showing on the video, how many sacks did these two have combined?
Zip, nada, zilch.
It's a big old goose egg right there.
That's impressive. That's really hard to do. To sign two premier pass rushers who put up double-digit sacks for the last couple of years, both of them put up goose eggs on their new team.
And what also is impressive is that the Browns clinched their first winning season since 2007. So Browns fans, just congrats to you.
Guys. You deserve it.
You've been through so much. Let's get on to the next game, though, with the Cincinnati Bengals going to the Miami Dolphins and losing 7-19. And the consistent story here is that throughout most of his starts, small sample size, but through most of them, Tua hasn't been an amazing quarterback, like kind of what we've seen from Justin Herbert comparing the draft class. But that's not a knock on him because he's been reliable mostly, which is kind of what we're seeing out of him in this offense. He still might be trying to find a rhythm, but he still had a solid game, almost 300 yards passing, a touchdown, no turnovers, which is probably the most important stat with that. Of course, the guy that's really saving the day, though, kicker Jason Sanders with 4 field goals.
Jason Sanders has been the best kicker in the league, and it's not close this year. He's been really
impressive. It is close because Younghoe Koo. Come on now.
I mean, he's missed kicks. I think Sanders has missed 1 kick this year.
Better than Justin.
Really freaking good.
Hey, if you're better than Justin Tucker, then.
I mean, he missed a 35 yarder yesterday. It's kind of
ruined the streak, man. Ruined the streak.
I know. So something about Tua, and this is kind of just what I've picked up, and this was coming from the same guy that thought he had an offensive, rookie of the year case, which I honestly still think he does because Justin Herbert hasn't won a game since 2009, and I think. It's not getting enough buzz, but Justin Jefferson should be the front runner right now for offensive rookie of the year. That dude is putting up insane stats right now in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. He's kind of alphaing Adam Thielen right now, and is just turned himself into the number 1 target. But with Tua, I don't see anything out of him right now that suggests that he's going to be anything more than a game manager in the NFL. I think there's a difference when you look at guys like Burrow, Herbert, Tua right now. Tua's not going to try to push the ball down the field. He's not going to try to fit the ball into tight windows. He's going to play. He's going to run play action. He's going to throw the ball to the open man. He's just not going to take a bunch of risks. And I mean, it is a small sample size so far, but Tua just doesn't have any of the qualities that jump out on the screen and say a defensive coordinator is going to have nightmares game planning for Tua like he would have nightmares game planning for Justin Herbert.
I don't want to say this is an insult because I love Tua. I think he's a great player, but it seems like the floor is higher with Tua in the game, but the ceiling is higher with Fitzpatrick in the game.
And that I think that says exactly kind of the point I'm trying to get at is Tua's not going to put you over the top. He's not going to drive an offense to succeed if it's not built that way already. And there's just different quarterbacks that you put them into a system, they're going to be awesome. If you put them outside that system, they're going to be horrible. Case in point, Ryan Tannehill. Yeah. You put him with Adam Gase, he's horrible. You put him with a good run offense that has play action and it's got some really big receivers and playmakers on the outside. He looks fantastic. And I think, unfortunately, that's Tua's ceiling right now because he has not shown in the game film right now that he has that extra level, that extra gear to be able to push an offense over the top.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not the best thing to see right here. I think that's for sure. But on the other hand, we had the Bengals, and of course, without Joe Burrow, they're just awful.
Well, I thought we were intentionally just skipping over the Bengals part of this whole week right now.
Oh, I mean, we're really going to talk about them because what do you want to talk about?
I mean, they're not good. They're not a good team right now. And they've won too many games to be in play for the number 1 right now. So I guess they're just going to, like we said earlier, they're going to get Penei Sewell. And anywhere in the top 5, that's where he's going to go. He's going to go to the Bengals.
Too bad it's not going to drop to the Broncos, unfortunately. But it is what it is. We got a team, though. We had the Jacksonville Jaguars about to ruin the tank when they just barely lost to the Vikings in overtime, 27-24. The Vikings really should have lost this game, being honest. They were down 16-6 at one point. And luckily, our savior for the Jacksonville Jaguars, savior of the tank, our sweet prince, Mike Glennon, saves the day for the Jaguars as he throws a couple interceptions, make sure that they're not going to win that game. Mike, see, the reason here, there's all this drama because, they're keeping Mike Glennon in. They're not letting, the mania take over. They're not letting Minshew take over, even though he's begging, reportedly. Because Minshew, what's he going to do for you, Alex? He's going to win football games. Exactly.
You don't want that. You don't want that at all.
Mike Glennon, what is he going to do for you, Alex? He's going to lose you football games.
He's a professional at that, too.
He knows what he's doing, man. He's a role player, and he's a team player. Mike Glennon should be applauded for this. But on the other hand, at least, the Cousins, Cook, and Jefferson, the holy trio over there in Minnesota, playing very well. And Jefferson, at least statistically, he's just as good, if not better, than Randy Moss, to go off of what you said a couple minutes ago. And the Vikings still have a chance to make that playoff push, man. Like I was saying a few weeks ago, 7th seed right now. It's possible.
The 7th seed is wide open right now, especially because the Cardinals can't figure out how to get a win together.
It's a 6-6 7th seed too.
Yeah, I mean it's looking pretty sketch right now. But the Jags and the Jets tried their hardest to ruin the tank right now, tank for Trevor. But they both somehow, I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but they both somehow miraculously lost in either overtime or the last play of the game. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if someone buzzed down to Mike Glennon to throw a pick in overtime to set up the Vikings for an easy kick there. But
that there's radio in the ear from the head coach, man. We all know what he's doing with the mask.
There's one from the head coach and one from the GM telling him to lose the games. That's a special Mike Glennon helmet. The Vikings. This is kind of how they've looked the last couple of years. On paper, offensively, they have some dangerous weapons, and if you don't have Kirk Cousins turning the ball over, they're going to be solid on offense. They're going to be, an average to above average offense, and it's just their defense really let them down early in the year, and that's I think put them behind the 8 ball. But Eric Kendricks is playing really well right now. Harrison Smith had that really big interception in overtime to seal the win for him. So their playmakers are starting to step up and make plays, and that's not something you want to see from a 7 seed. Is a team with a lot of playmakers and a lot of people that can win one-on-one matchups, and that's what they have. So not like they're going to be able to do anything in the playoffs, but they're a team that on paper you don't want to see.
Exactly. Unless they can do something, if they're matched up against the Saints, then it's almost a guaranteed win right there.
But something weird's going to happen.
Exactly. It always is without fail. But going from the second best team in the league to the best team in the league, let's go to the Meadowlands with the Raiders at the Jets. As you just mentioned, the Jets losing this one, really winning this one 28-31. With the Raiders should have lost. Luckily, former defensive coordinator Greg Williams makes literally an unprecedented play call. The first team out of 252 scenarios to rush 6 defenders with less than 15 seconds, down 4 to 8 points, and needing 40-plus yards to score. The Jets go out, or the Raiders go out. Hail Mary 5 seconds to go, but you want to. What do you think that play call, Alex, was? What is just simply did they call it tank?
I mean, to put that confusing stat in a more layman's term, he's the first defensive coordinator to blitz on a Hail Mary. Is essentially what that's saying. It's here's the thing. Everyone's going to talk about these conspiracy theories, all these things. I really just think Greg Williams is just an idiot and he just loves blitzing. Because if you go back and you actually look at,
he's done this before.
This is not new. He did it the play before. Nelson Aguilar was wide open and Derek Carr missed him. How often do you get 2 tries to win a game, with wide open receivers running down the field when they're supposed to be playing prevent defense? I mean, Greg Williams just served it up to him. This is not. I mean, he got fired.
Unfortunately, unfortunately for Jets fans, he was the only coach to get fired.
Well, that's because he was the one that should be getting a long-term contract for the work he did for that franchise. But
I tried to tweet that, man. He saved the Jets tank. He should be hailed as a hero in New York.
I mean, but also in this game, Darren Waller. Holy crap, is he good?
I hate him because just out of nowhere, the guy I'm playing in fantasy this week, Darren Waller has been doing much this year. Then he goes out and gets like 40 points.
Yeah, tough scene when you're staring across down the barrel to a 40 burger from your tight end. So it's a tough way to go out. But no, I mean, Jets bad team. Raiders shouldn't have made it this close. They were winning pretty handily in the second half. Let their foot off the gas. I mean, we see this too much with John Gruden teams as they start really hot earlier in the year. And then I don't know if they just get tired of John Gruden's voice throughout the entire season, but they start to kind of fizzle out at the end. And, it'll be interesting to see when Josh Jacobs gets back in the lineup because he's a really important key to that offense.
He's probably the most important part to that team.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, to that team.
Yeah.
And I think he's one of the best running backs in the AFC right now. 100%. So, once he gets back, then you can start really kind of judging the Raiders. And I almost just take these games against the Jaguars and the Jets and, the bottom dwellers of the NFL as almost like throwaway games. Because if you're the Raiders, you're not putting a ton on film against them. You're not trying this isn't a kitchen sink game, so it doesn't really kind of dictate how that team is on a week-to-week basis. So you kind of just got to get your win, move on, and hope you play another one of those teams.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Shine light for the Jets. You keep the top spot in the draft, and also you get to see Sam Darnold throw more touchdowns than interceptions. So hats off to you guys.
It's a rare sight these days.
It was beautiful. It brought a tear to my eye. It was so amazing. Next game, though, going to the AFC South, we had the Colts at the Texans with the Colts winning this one 26-20. As the Colts win with a late fumble and safety, really just spelled disaster for the Texans. Phil Rivers, to give him some credit, when he doesn't turn over the ball, when they're not in this whole fourth down or late in the fourth quarter situation where you're hoping for a comeback, that will never happen with Phil Rivers. He has a decent game, threw about 300 yards, a couple touchdowns, and it's that Colts defense that's able to have a great bounce back game. After giving up 45 to the Titans last week, they only give up 20 to a really good Texans offense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, whenever Darius Leonard plays, this defense is just so freaking good. And I think DeForest Buckner is kind of getting on that same level here pretty soon.
That's a fantastic trade. Earlier in this offseason, I thought it was great for both teams.
I think that's what I was just gonna say. I think it's a win-win for both teams because the Niners just couldn't play two defensive linemen with Nick Bosa coming up here pretty soon.
And you can't pay him. You can't pay that. You can't play that.
And Kinlaw's a stud too, so they got a really good draft pick. I mean, that's really what it was. It was Kinlaw for
cheaper
for
contract
and having to pay him. So
exactly.
No, I mean this Colts defense is good. They fly around to the ball. Another one of these teams that has a high floor, low ceiling because they're quarterback, and that's just roster composition. If that's the way they want it to go, and it'll get them 9 to 11 wins, a playoff berth, and not much else in the playoffs. So, there's just teams like this in the NFL where, if everything breaks right in the playoffs, that's kind of what they're banking on, similar to like what the Eagles did and 3 years ago. That's kind of what their mold is, just because they don't have game breakers on the offensive side, which is what we've seen a lot from the best player in the NFL a lot of the times wins the Super Bowl. And you saw that with Brady, you see that with Mahomes now. So if you don't have that player, you got to be a well-rounded team, and that's what this Colts team is.
And I mean, with the defense like that, that's a playoff defense. So who knows what's going to happen once they do eventually make the playoffs. Next, so with a game with major playoff implications on the line, we had a NFC West matchup with the Rams going to Arizona to take on the Cardinals, with the Rams winning this 38-28. And with this win, they're able to get back up to the top of the division. Both offenses, they're able to bounce back from a bad loss against the JV team of the 49ers. But both offenses are able to perform well. It's the Cardinals defense that fills them, but at least for the Cardinals, especially after a bad couple games offensively, you're able to get bounce back. Your quarterback, Kyler Murray, is able to get a little bit of a bounce back. And although you'll lose, at least there's a silver lining to the loss.
And we talked about the best team in the NFC already, and I think we just stumbled upon the second best team in the NFC. I think this Rams team is better than the Packers. Mm-hmm. I think they're better than the Seahawks. I think they're obviously much better than any team in the NFC East.
Yeah.
But this is a team with game breakers on almost every level of the ball. Kupp and Woods on the outside, on the offensive side, are very, very good receivers. They're almost elite receivers. They're top 15, top 20 at their position. Cam Akers is starting to get a lot more run, and we kind of thought this is how the backfield was going to turn throughout the course of the season. It was going to start with a three-headed backfield, and then once Cam Akers kind of separated himself from a talent perspective, you would start to see him getting a lot more carries. And then on the defensive side, Jalen Ramsey is the best corner in the league. Aaron Donald's the best player in the league.
Speaking of which, that matchup, I would argue he won the matchup with DeAndre Hopkins this week.
He bullied DeAndre Hopkins.
That was surprising. Is that hard to say?
He did that against DK. He did that against DK. He did that against DeAndre. Jalen Ramsey is the best corner in the game right now. It's not close, especially from on a one-on-one perspective. He's not going to put up crazy stats because he's just shutting down your offense's best receiver. But this Rams offense, they have the coaching, they have good special teams, they have good defense, they have a good offense. They're similar to the Saints. I just think the Saints have a little more elite talent with Kamara and Thomas. And that's what's kind of separating them from an offensive standpoint. I think their defenses are very similar. They both have shutdown corners and dominant D lines. And, this Cardinals team is backpedaling. They're on their heels bad right now. And it's I don't know what it's going to take to bring him back. I think it's going to have to be Kyler. Kyler's going to have to start running again. Ever since he got that shoulder injury, he's not running the ball at all. And it's showing. So
problem now. See, the problem now, though, is that the Cardinals, they're on a 3-game losing streak in a highly competitive division. They're 6-6. They're not even in the 7th seed right now. They're a game out of the 7th seed behind the Vikings. Their playoffs are at risk right now. You have a team that could be good in the playoffs. You have just an all-around good team. So it's all about this late season push to see where it gets them. But luckily, they did get some help this week as we had the Giants going to Seattle. And would you believe it, Alex? The Giants actually win this game against. And it's not that Seattle's defense failed them; it's Seattle's offense that failed them this week. What the hell happened here?
With no Daniel Jones too. That's
Colt McCoy, New York Giants legend. Okay.
You're burying the lead on that. Colt McCoy comes back and he's resurged his career right now. that's the real headline. I'm getting from this, but no. Seahawks offense looked really, really bad. I don't know what about it. Something seems off with them. It seems like, at the beginning of the year, Russ was doing everything.
Ever since, Alex, just real quick, don't mean to cut you off, but ever since we did the whole let Russ cook, where's he gone with that?
That's what happens.
I feel like he's been on a decline ever since he filed for that trademark.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's kind of the story of the Seahawks year this year is, they started with Russ was just going crazy. And then Russ started to turn the ball over a little bit. And then he probably got in his own head. And he's like, I don't want to turn the ball over now. So now he's not pushing the ball crazy downfield. And so this is what you're seeing. You're seeing a stagnant offense. But I think also what we're seeing is this Giants defense is actually a pretty good unit. Especially with we saw this last year with the Bucs defense. When you have a quarterback that turns the ball over a ton, it almost masks how good that defense really is because they're just constantly having to battle with, the other team getting a ball with a quick change of possession, and they're all of a sudden in the red zone already. So with this Giants defense, they've last 3 games, 17 to the Eagles, 17 to the Bengals, 12 to the Seahawks. 2 of these games on the road, and they gave up 20 to the Washington football team, 23 to the Buccaneers, 21 to the Seahawks, 19 to the football team. They're consistent over the year. They're not putting up a ton of these offenses. They're not putting up a ton of points on them. So I think we had a combination of the Giants defense is actually pretty good. Colt McCoy wasn't going to turn the ball over at all. So there's just a game of field position back and forth. The Seahawks offense doesn't look that good right now. They need to establish Chris Carson again. They need to give Russ some ability, to have defense is not just key on everything he's doing. So once that happens and once they get Carson back in the mix, I think this offense will go back to not what it was at the beginning of the year because that was just an ungodly pace Russ was putting up, but somewhere in between where they are now and what that top end looks like.
See, they're still probably a playoff team, but it just depends on how good they are going to be in those playoffs. Now, the next game was essentially a foregone conclusion with the Eagles at the Packers. We all knew the Packers were going to win. It was just by how much the real storyline to this was that the Rodgers-Adams connection is still going strong. Another 2 touchdowns. I feel like every week we have to talk about this. But, of course, the big story is in the third quarter, Carson Wentz gets benched for arguably the best quarterback in that division. Maybe. But Jalen Hurts gets his chance. We now have a backup quarterback for all 4 teams in the NFC East. Jalen Hurts goes for 5 for 12, 109 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Also rushed the ball for 5 times for about 30 yards. And it wasn't impressive, but also it was better than Wentz, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's something new. It's like, you take if you wrap up a shitty car, the unwrapping of it is always going to seem like it's a better car when it's just really not. You're just, you're wrapping dog shit into dog shit. So it's like just what it's going to come out as. But I think they needed to do this. They needed to put some sort of, different feel to this offense. It was getting very, very bland. Same story, different day with Wentz. He was going to take too many sacks, turn the ball over, not push the ball on the field. Wentz or Hurts is going to be a good changeup for the rest of the year. It's crazy because they're still not out of the playoff race yet. So
no.
And they have a really easy last part of this season, and they play a lot of division games, so they could pretty easily get back into the mix. But Hurts he's fine. Like, I think this is a good time to put him in there because it's you got to see what he's got. But
exactly,
I think we're going to talk about it a little bit later with Carson Wentz, but not a good situation to be in right now for that Philadelphia.
I mean, with that question though, Alex, has Doug Pearson essentially killed Carson Wentz's career?
I don't know if it's Doug Peterson or it's just almost like he was so good in 2017 that we now expected it. And then I think the problem is that ever since then, he hasn't been the same.
Ever since that knee injury, man.
We keep thinking he's going to get back to that point, and he's not. So now we're just comparing him to this golden statue of what he once looked like, and he's just like kind of not looking at all the same. And so he's almost dwarfed in comparison to what people and the fans look at him at. And that's just a tough hill to come back from because it's hard to reestablish yourself as an average quarterback when you've, played at the level he did. So
exactly. And my biggest kind of takeaway from this is if you go see this on our Instagram at Fourth Long Radio, I was asked a question of whether this is like going to be a good thing, whether it's going to really be beneficial for the Eagles. It's going to be it's going to make them marginally better, but playing Jalen Hurts over Carson Wentz is not going to magically make their own line not be absolutely abysmal and give up 10 sacks a game. That's not going to change it. He might be able to avoid 1 or 2 just because he's a little more mobile now, but this is not solving the core problem of the offense, which is the offensive line. That's something we're going to have to wait for the offseason for. Next game, we had the Patriots massacring the Chargers 45-0, and with the Chargers suffering the worst home shutout loss since the Steelers lost to the Browns 51-0 in 1989. And Bill Belichick also becomes the only coach to win the game at 50 different stadiums. And the whole story of this game isn't the Patriots offense. It's hardly their defense. Sure, the Chargers offense was not there. Their defense was at best. It's the Chargers really putting the special in special teams. They're giving up 70-yard punt returns, 44-yard blocked field goal returns. It's like the 2010 Chargers all over again. If you remember, we want to throw ourselves back to that. They were number 1 offense, number 1 defense, number 32 in special teams, and they didn't do anything with that. Chargers, special teams.
Really impressive to do again.
The Chargers.
I mean, yeah, there's really not much to recap on this game because it was
Herbert
really
with the worst game of a season.
Yeah, I mean, to be totally honest with you, I tuned this game out when it was 21-0. So
there was no point.
No, I mean, all you could see after was it's so shocking to look back at this and say, is this the biggest coaching mismatch that we've ever had in this league? I mean, Anthony Lynn against Bill Belichick in LA, not in Foxborough, in LA, and he gets a 45 burger put on him with a goose egg on his side. I mean, that's one of those where, as a coach, you leave that score up for the whole entire practice week just to let your guys know you guys just got shellacked by 45 in your own building.
Yeah, exactly. And
to a bad Patriots team.
Yeah, and you got to bring up the point, Alex. So my question to you is, how much longer does Anthony Lynn have in Los Angeles? Because if he's on the hot seat. I think he's just like on a seat that's literally on fire right now.
It would be criminal if he coaches in 2021 for the Chargers.
Dude, kicking back to a positional coach, my personal feeling is that he's going to finish the season as the head coach of the Chargers. But
100%. He's too nice of a guy to get fired midseason.
But as soon as we get to Black Monday, you can assure he's gonzo. The next game, the Sunday night game, which was closer than I really thought it was going to be. I was expecting a slaughter fest, in which he had a one-score game between these two. We had the Broncos traveling to Kansas City to face the best team in the league. And it's Broncos offense failing them in a winnable game, as the Chiefs offense was limited just to one touchdown, forcing most field goals of most drives. But it's that Chiefs defense coming up clutch, picked Drew Lock late in the game to seal it. And it's really Drew Lock can't really stop himself from forcing the ball down the field. He's a gunslinger, but he's a gunslinger in the worst way possible.
He's a gunslinger with an overabundance of confidence, having earned none of it. So that's kind of a weird combination to get to, but Drew Lock somehow figured it out. But here's a take for you. If Drew Lock and Tua Tagovailoa could somehow combine forces, they would make the perfect quarterback.
Be the best quarterback.
Because Drew Lock has so much confidence and will push the ball down the field.
Is that just Joe Montana at that point?
Basically, I mean, I don't know. They could be able to throw ambidextrous too. They could throw right and left. That'd be tough to defend. But the Chiefs have done this over the past couple of years. Ever since they've had Patrick Mahomes, they've always had really weird and close in conference games, or in division games, excuse me. But they go 1-1 to the Raiders this year. Obviously the first Broncos Chiefs matchup was a boat race, but that was just because of defensive touchdowns and kind of a weird final score.
I wouldn't say boat race considering it's 4-3-16, but I get your point.
It was pretty. When you more than double up your opponent, then I consider that a pretty handed victory.
I would say so. I would agree with you.
But I think that the Chiefs, they didn't put the ball into the end zone, and this maybe comes into question: do they have the run game that is going to create success in the red zone? They haven't really been a great red zone team, because they don't get there that often. They don't get to practice it very much because they just throw long touchdowns all the time.
Exactly.
And B, they don't typically have to be as efficient in the red zone because they score so much just outside of the red zone. So the first 2 points are kind of connected somehow, but when they get in those close games in January and February, at some point they're going to be faced with a goal to go situation. And I don't know if they have the run game to be able to threaten that side of the ball, to be able to, efficiently put the ball in the end zone at a clip that's gonna, be in the top tier of the NFL. So I think that's really the only takeaway I have from the Chiefs right now. It's almost their only hole is are they as efficient a red zone offense as it's going to take in some of those close games? But again, it honestly might not even matter either.
Exactly. When the game completions are over 25 yards, it's not going to be in there anyway. So it doesn't really matter at that point. Our next game going to a Monday afternoon football game. Would you imagine that? What's that for? Is that alarm for trap game?
It's a trap game alarm.
It's a trap game because the football team went in and they handled. Well, I wouldn't say handled, but they beat the 11-0 Steelers 23-17. They were down 14-3 at halftime. And can we talk about how they got those 3 points before halftime real quick? Because, of course, we had a battle of the comeback player of the year finalists, essentially, with Alex Smith and Ben Roethlisberger. It's that bloody sock game for Alex Smith, too. Let's remember that. This is going down in history books. But the veteran move of Alex Smith runs off the field with the game ball, with their field goal team running onto the field to try to get out. They don't have timeouts. They're trying to get a field goal, try to get some points before halftime. He was sacked. Field goal team's running on. No timeouts. He's running off. He keeps the ball with them to force the officials to call a timeout to get a new ball. And after the game, he said he was just, quote, hurrying up the process. Alex Smith is a veteran in this game. Don't you forget it.
I mean, when I saw that, I absolutely loved it. And at first I was like, well, he's probably just being nice because, whenever they have to kick, they have to bring in their kicking balls.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just like, oh, I'll save them a step and, not have to have the refs switch him out once the K ball's out there. But he just ran off with it, literally just ran to the sidelines with the ball in his hand. And then the refs were just kind of like, I don't know what we're supposed to do. We got to stop it because the ball boy is not going to be able to give me the ball in time. So
I didn't even notice it at first too. He was fine with it.
It was a genius move by him. The bloody sock was a pretty legendary move as well. I mean, it's one of those cuts that just starts gashing blood and it looks so much worse than it is. But
it's like those kind of cuts. It has you can have like a not even an inch, not even that deep. But sometimes when we all play football, it just doesn't stop bleeding.
It just looks like you've been in a murder scene. So.
It does look badass, though. I do have to say.
I mean, this really was the battle of the comeback player of the year, and Alex Smith is kind of building a case a little bit. He had that 390-yard game a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's the football team. They're tied for first place right now. If that team wins the division, I think they have to give it to them.
Yes.
So, the Steelers. This is a weird team for me because I feel like for an 11-0 team, they don't seem like an 11-0 team, and I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but it just doesn't seem like they are ever really in control of games that they should be. It doesn't feel like they ever impose their will on teams. It doesn't feel like if they played the Chiefs right now, they'd have any shot at beating them. Is it a trap game? Is it the Steelers, coming back to reality a little bit? Is this really, a 9-3 team that got buffed up by early season easy scheduling? I don't know, but not a great look for the Steelers. They're going to really have to come back and play well these last couple of weeks. But Washington football team on the rise. Steelers need to rebound. So
Washington football team's defense is legitimate. Chase Young is really doing something crazy with there. And for all you Australian football fans, I know Alex is rocking the shirt. We just had the draft. We'll get another show out here soon of recapping the draft. But I know most of you don't follow the sport. You should. It's a crazy sport. But similar to what happened in this season's AFL season, because we had Port Adelaide going coast to coast. They were the best team. They were the perfect team throughout the entire season. They're always at the top of the standings. But you never really felt like they were the team that was going to win the grand final. Of course, they didn't. So that's kind of what the Steelers are right here. But we'll talk about the Steelers a little bit later in our Buy or Sell segment. Moving on to Monday Night Football, though, we had the Bills at the Niners in Arizona, with the Bills winning this one 34-24, with Josh Allen, Cole Beasley going off to get the Bills' first Monday Night Football win since 1999.
Wow.
That's
Josh, crazy.
Ties a career high, 4 touchdowns, almost 400 yards. Cole Beasley, 130 and a touchdown. Oof.
This Bills offense. I mean, I thought they were going to take a step back when John Brown went on the IR, but it seems like Cole Beasley just kind of stepped right in, and it's not his role. I think what's helping the Bills a ton right now is their rookie out of UCF, Gabe Davis. Got a really good grasp of the offense early. He's able to play outside opposite Stephon Diggs, leave Cole Beasley in the slot. I mean, Gabe Davis has been making plays all year, and I think he's really impressed a lot of people in that Bills organization. But, I mean, I think we all knew Josh Allen was talented. He had a massive arm. He was athletic. I don't think anyone could have anticipated the leap he's made this year because he's not turning the ball over. His passing has gotten so much more efficient. He's still pushing the ball down the field, but at such a high mark that his offense is getting really, really hard to stop right now. I mean, it's almost crazy the numbers he's putting up, and he's the second best, one of the top 5 goal line running back right now in the NFL. I mean, I feel like him, Taysom Hill, and Cam Newton are almost like the most efficient options right now on the goal line, but he hasn't lost any of his gunslinger mentality.
No.
But he's optimized it, and he's got incredible weapons on the outside.
Josh Allen's almost what Drew Lock should be in the way. Like a perfect Drew Lock is probably a Josh Allen. but a smaller.
I think we're giving Drew Lock too much credit still. I don't know if he's got perfect in him at all. So let's get Drew Lock and Josh Allen completely out of the same tax bracket. But this Niners team, they're a good story. It's kind of similar to them when Jimmy G tore his ACL. They kind of hung around a little bit. They won some games they shouldn't have because they're well coached and they have a solid defense. But what I'm really hoping, and I think is the best case scenario for this Niners team this year, is A, they miss the playoffs, and B, they lose a couple games down the road and they get some points put up on them so we can keep Robert Saleh an extra year. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I think Saleh wants to see what he can do with
I feel like
a healthy
he can give him like 35 points up again the rest of the season and still be guaranteed a head coaching spot if he so chooses. The thing for the Niners right now is the Bills, they keep their top spot in the AFC East. For the Niners, it's not just losing a game or two late. The Niners should lose it realistically. If you want long-term success, you lose every single game the rest of the season because you're a great team when you're healthy. Obviously, they've just had the worst season when it comes to luck. They're still a really good team. They're still a really good team there. And especially if you're able to lose as many games, get as high of a pick as possible, really already bolster that powerful roster. That's going to be the best case scenario for the Niners. Of course, it's not the best thing that sounds. No one likes to lose. But long term, that's probably the best thing that's going to happen for that team. Now, to finish things off with Tuesday Night Football, again, we had the Cowboys at the Ravens. Sadly, we did not get a revenge game for Dez as he tests positive in pregame warmups for Lola the Rona, and so he gets taken off. I'm surprised we still even had the game at that point. But it's the Ravens offense taking advantage of a bad Cowboys defense to get back on track. Lamar Jackson, nice 3 touchdowns, 37-yard rushing touchdown on a 4th down play early in the first. It was nice to see the Ravens actually play team complementary football. And the thing with the Cowboys, though, is that they're not out of it, but they're out of it.
It's crazy to think right now. I mean, at the beginning of the year, you could have put a ton of money on the Eagles or the Cowboys winning that NFC East, and even 5 weeks through the year, there everyone was just writing off the Giants and the football team. I mean, for good reason too. They're bad football teams, but I mean, it's crazy now that the Cowboys and the Eagles are looking up from the basement of the NFC East, looking up at the Giants and the football team.
Who would have thought that would be that the team without a name would be probably the biggest threat in that division right now?
It's ridiculous, but I think it's a testament to coaching. I think
Ron Rivera, man.
I think there's 2 good coaches in the NFC East, and they're not on the teams you'd think they would be.
Joe Judge and Ron Rivera, man.
Yeah, they're two good coaches right now. But yeah, like you said, it was good to see Lamar and the offense click a little bit. Their rushing offense. This is when they're good. This is why they're good. They have 3 running backs, a stable of guys that each do something different, all running the ball for a high clip, all running for super high averages, ripping off big runs. Lamar playing off of that, getting wide open guys down the field. It's what you saw with that Miles Boykin play, that 4th and 2. You saw what I loved about that was you saw right before that play, Lamar, tells his special teams unit, get off the field. I'm taking this one. Then he runs 37 yards untouched to the end zone. So
gave us a little bit of a confidence builder too, because Lamar's been lacking recently. And it's that run game for Lamar that you were preaching about getting going again last week. That's what we did here.
It opens up the entire offense. Everything that the Ravens do is, and this was the same as when Greg Roman was in San Francisco and they were running the Kaepernick offense. Whenever that run game gets going, whether it's the quarterback, whether it's the running back, it opens up every single other aspect. So, it makes them hard to defend because you don't know where the ball's going, and people get running in space. That's when you have playmakers like Hollywood Brown, like Mark Andrews, like J.K. Dobbins, all just when they have space and they have, there's other threats going around in the offense. That's when they're able to succeed.
100%. But there is our recap of all the games, and let's roll it.
We want the ball, we're going to score.
Tell them to bring me my money. Yeah!
Dollar bills, y'all.
So we buying or are we selling? So there we are. Here we are, Alex. Our buy or sell segment. Of course, those that don't know, we got 5 statements. and you get to choose whether you buy it or sell it. Leave us a comment on YouTube, let us know on Twitter, Instagram. Also hit us up 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and let us know what you think about this. But the first statement we're going to go with today, Alex, is that the Browns are a legitimate playoff team.
I think we can definitively say that now. I mean, now that they've first off, I'm going to buy your statement because they put it on a really good Titans team, and Titans are in the upper echelon of the AFC right now. They made it to the AFC freaking championship game last year, so they're at the top of the AFC class right now behind the Chiefs, and I mean, I guess you can kind of throw the Steelers in there, but I think there's just a monumental gap between the Chiefs and everyone else, and the Browns are firmly entrenched now in that second group with the Steelers, with the Titans, with the Colts. It's just they're a good team. They're a well-rounded team. They have a dominant running offense. They're an offense that's built for December and January. So, yeah, they're a legitimate playoff team. They could beat you on any given Sunday, except if you're playing the Chiefs.
And man, the kind of the funny thing with that is if we're looking at the current playoff picture right now, the team that they actually be playing in the first round is the Titans. So, to me, a legitimate playoff team is winning a game. I think winning a game certifies you as a legitimate playoff team. And going off of this, just going off the basic statement, can they win a playoff game? Which is my kind of way to answer this question.
That's your litmus test.
Thank you. That's my litmus test. See, last week we talked about osmosis. This week we're talking about litmus. We're just an educational show too, by the way.
Tag it.
Exactly. But would they beat the Titans? As of right now, I have no reason to believe that coming off a win like this, that they wouldn't beat the Titans. So I'm buying this. I'm saying that the Browns are a legitimate playoff team. Of course, they're going to prove us wrong because they are the Cleveland Browns, but we'll just have to wait and see with that one. Our next statement, staying in the AFC, is that the Buffalo Bills are the second best team in the AFC.
Ding, ding, ding. You got a winner. And, of course, it's a team I just forgot to mention in that class of AFC that I just talked about in the last point there. But, yeah, I think the Bills are the second best team because they have the best offense out of that whole group. And I think their defense is on par with the other teams. I mean, I think Pittsburgh has the best defense out of that second group by far. But with Tre'Davious White back there, with Ed Oliver on the defensive line, they have playmakers on defense, and that's all you can ask for when you have an offense that's cooking like the Bills are right now. So, yeah, I think they're the second best team in the AFC. And weirdly, I think the Bills have the best chance against the Chiefs.
Damn it, you took the words right out of my mouth, Alex.
Just because of that offense. They have the only quarterback that I think that can go toe-to-toe right now with Patrick Mahomes that are in the playoffs right now. So,
dude, I was talking about a number of weeks ago. I was talking about one Super Bowl between Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson, back when Russell Wilson was still looking like MVP. But now, if we get an AFC Championship game with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes slinging the football 100 yards down the field,
please
give it to me, please.
Awesome.
Just pump that right into my veins, baby. I'll be an addict for that. But like you, Alex, buying this, I was going to say that the reason I'm buying this is because they're the only team right now that has maybe besides the Saints, and depending on what defense and what offense shows up, maybe they're the only team that has a chance at beating the Kansas City Chiefs right now. And look at the AFC. What are you saying, that the Dolphins are better than the Bills? Are we going to say the Browns? Are we going to say the Steelers? Are we going to say the Titans, the Colts? No. So as to quote you, Alex, they are the second best team in the AFC, and it's not close.
Jeez, that's crazy. The Bills.
Hey, let's stay in the AFC though. Next statement is that the Steelers are the worst 11-0 team of all time. Of course, to give you a little background on this, is that this has happened just 12 times in NFL history. The first team to do this was the 72 Miami Dolphins. Of course, they would go to finish 14-0, win the Super Bowl. Dolphins would do it again next season. They would lose in the Super Bowl. Then we got the Bears next, 15-1 regular season. They win Super Bowl. The next teams to do this, Redskins, Broncos, They both win Super Bowls. The Colts lose in the divisional round. Then with the Patriots, of course, we all know and love those New York Giants saving the day, beating them in the Super Bowl after they go with 16-0. We had the Colts losing the Super Bowl, Saints winning the Super Bowl. So then Packers lost divisional. Then Panthers, most recently in 2015, losing in Super Bowl 50. So the high majority of this, they all go on to win or at least make appearances in the Super Bowl. And with the Steelers, I do not see almost any scenario where they get into the championship game, let alone make a Super Bowl. So the worst team on here for the most disappointing finish is likely going to be either the 2011 Packers or the 2005 Indianapolis Colts losing the divisional round. I don't see the Steelers winning a playoff game at this point of the season. So for me, I'm buying this statement. The Steelers are the worst 11-0 team in NFL history. Also, none of these 11-0 teams lost to a football team with no name.
No, that's they are in a class of their own from that perspective. I'm gonna buy this statement too, and I feel like my shopping cart's getting a little full now with all these buying statements.
Shopping cart's getting full, wallet's getting low like usual.
It's just how it is these days. But yeah, the Steelers, I just they don't look like a top tier team right now. They look like every other team in that 3-12 range right now in the NFL, and their offense is very one-dimensional right now, almost like shockingly one-dimensional with an aging quarterback. His arm fell off last year, so no idea what they're doing on that side of the ball. On defense, yeah, they're really good, but they just lost arguably their second best defensive player. Yeah. And Bud Dupree out for the year, so that's
tough. At least you have Alex. I have to give you credit. He's pretty much running away with this defensive player of the year with the Watt brother over there. He's going to win it if he just stays average the rest of the season.
Keep his head on straight for the last couple of weeks, and I think he's going to make me a happy man when we're reviewing those tapes. But no, I mean, yeah, the Steelers they're a really good team, but they're not in this echelon where 11-0 teams are normally at. So yeah, I'm going to buy the statement every day of the week.
Exactly. I'm so glad you're right there with me. Next statement, going with Carson Wentz this time, is that Wentz's contract is a bigger turnoff than his on-field play. Of course, his contract, he just inked before the season a 4-year, $128 million extension that begins next season. And if the Eagles were to cut him right now, he would cost around he would cost the Eagles around $60 million over the next 2 seasons in dead cap.
That's crazy.
That's a lot of money.
He hasn't even started his extension yet, and people are panicking, putting in the backup. I mean, this is bad. This is really, really bad. And this is what I thought was going to happen with that Jared Goff contract, because I just don't think he was that good of a quarterback either. But he at least doesn't turn the ball over and is working with a competent coach that's going to put him in positions to succeed. But yeah, I mean, Wentz, and realistically, the Eagles cannot cut Wentz after next year.
No.
They have to wait at least 2 years, because at least after the second year of his contract, this dead cap would only be like $29 million or something like that. And you're still paying the guy $30 million a year to be bad, which is really, really bad.
Or to be the most expensive backup quarterback ever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what would be worse, just like kind of rolling Carson Wentz out there and being a mediocre team, or having him as a backup.
I think at least make him earn the money.
I know.
We're paying you this much money. Go out there behind that awful offensive line and just die. Just die.
Don't get Jalen Hurts hurt. Like we're paying you $130 million to make our next quarterback not get hurt by you taking all these hits. So yeah, I mean it's really bad that his contract. If you look at it and you're a fan, some fans that don't look at cap stuff, they're just like, oh, why don't they just get rid of him or cut him? But you look into it, they are hamstrung right now. They cannot do a thing.
Can't afford this.
I think all they can hope for is, maybe. I mean, they get a better offensive line. They trot him out there, try it again next year, and see if he gets his turnovers down. Because it's weird, because he still looks like he's got talent. I mean, he can whip the ball down the field. He's still decently athletic, but something's off with him right now. And
fixing the offensive line fixing the offensive line is going to help. But to go back to the statement, Alex, we buying or selling?
I'm gonna buy it because his contract is disgusting, and to think that he would be he's just making that much money to be this bad is gross. And the worst part is this extension hasn't even started yet.
Yeah,
That's
right.
The worst part.
So I with this whole thing, I don't think he's that bad of a quarterback. He could be good, but he needs to be in the right situation. He needs to be in the right scheme. He needs to have the right coach. Doug Peterson and that awful offense and that awful city of Philadelphia is not the place for him to thrive. If he was switch places with Jared Goff, honestly, it's probably the same situation for both quarterbacks. We see Jared Goff struggling, and then we see Carson Wentz being good. I really do believe that Carson Wentz just needs a better situation.
I actually think if Carson Wentz went on the Rams and they switched right now,
He'd be really
the
good.
Rams would be better than they are now.
I want to believe that too. Last statement of the day, though, is that now on Sunday, Travis Kelce became the only tight end in history with 5 1,000-yard seasons, and he did that consecutively. And with that being said, Alex, might be a little early, but who cares about that? Travis Kelce will go down as the GOAT of tight ends. Buy it or sell it.
I am selling this so hard because there's only one tight end GOAT. He's still playing right now. Gronk is going to go down as the most dominant tight end in the history of the NFL. I don't care who you put after him. There was no other force on the offensive side that was as intimidating as Gronk, as unstoppable as Gronk. You throw that man anything inside the 20, he's going to come up with it for a touchdown. This dude was unstoppable for a 4 to 5 year period. And Travis Kelce's really, really good. He's very consistent. You know what you're going to get from him each year. He doesn't get hurt. He's on a great offense. But how dominant Gronk was, I think, is just unrivaled compared to anything we're going to see over the next couple of years. And as good as Travis Kelce is, Pete Gronk is still the best tight end and what I call the GOAT.
For me, this is really tough because for a while, it's the GOAT is before this season. I was actually leaning more towards Tony Gonzalez than as a all-around tight end career-wise. He might have been the greater player, most dominant player. It's almost like we want to put this in basketball terms. Let's not start the whole tangent with this just real quick. Michael Jordan, the GOAT. LeBron James, the most one of the most dominant athletes on the court. I think that's a fair argument. But the thing is here is that if we're talking longevity, Gronk, we remember in his later years, he was injured a bunch and he was hardly.
We're not talking longevity, Ross.
We're not talking longevity. To be great, Alex, you have to have longevity. That is the part of being great. You can be a dominant player for a stretch of 3 years, and they can be the best 3 seasons ever, but that is going to make you the greatest player. Travis Kelce, he's already putting up these stats 5 in a row. Gronk got to 4 1,000-yard seasons. He had them back-to-back back in 2014 and 15 when he was arguably at his peak at those 2 seasons. But over the long term, Travis Kelce is going to be a better weapon for his offense. He's going to be a better tight end, and he's going to have the greater career. He is going to be greater than Gronk, then Tony Gonzalez, and Antonio Gates. He's going to be the GOAT.
Who's going to have more Super Bowls at the end of their careers?
Travis Kelce.
Over Gronk?
Travis Kelce.
Gronk has 3.
Yeah. And this Chiefs.
Do you think...
I think he could get 4.
Kelce's getting 3 more.
I think Travis Kelce gets 3 more. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes for 10 years. Yeah, this offense is probably going to stay.
Travis Kelce's playing for? He's not a spring chicken.
I think he's going to get, if he plays like 6 more seasons.
How old is Travis Kelce?
If Travis Kelce gets 6 more seasons of NFL career, I could see him winning 3 more Super Bowls within those 6 years. I can. I truly can.
Okay, off the top of your head, how old do you think Travis Kelce is?
Right now? Think he's late 20s, about 30.
He's 31.
31? He could get 6 more.
He's not playing 6 more years. I tell you that. I don't think it's out of the question to think that Patrick Mahomes is going to win 3 Super Bowls in the next 4 years.
Also, who says the Chiefs aren't going to win 3 Super Bowls in a row right now?
That's what we're saying. It's like they could win in the next 4 years. He could win 3 Super Bowls, but no, I mean Pete Gronk is so much better than Travis Kelce ever was, and so when I think of the GOAT tight end, I think of how dominant you were for an extended period of time, and Gronk was just so freaking unstoppable.
See, what we're seeing here is that we just have 2 different definitions of what it means to be the GOAT. And at that point, I think it's fair, but we'll see. Only time will tell, of course. But that's going to do it for our buy or sell segment. And let's cap this episode off with, of course, our power rankings. Going back to week 13, going to that from 5 to 1, I had the Bills, the Packers, the Saints, the Steelers, and the Chiefs, with the Seahawks and the Titans beyond the cusp right there. But now going into week 14, gotta say, pretty much the same teams, but quite the shakeup in order for most of them. So, of course, starting off with the dropouts, no one drops out this week for, I believe, the first time this season, actually.
It is.
But number 5, because they're still 11-1, they're still a good football team. I still have to respect them. They dropped 3 spots from number 2 to number 5, but I still have the Pittsburgh Steelers in the top 5. I see the Bills, I see a couple AFC teams better than them, but I think the Steelers can still make a case for third best team in the AFC.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, yeah, the Bills and Steelers, I think, are the next two that you talk about.
Yeah.
And then you go Titans, Browns. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate the solid Steelers. Yeah, I don't think they're that good. So
I just have to respect the record. They can be really good. Have to respect the defense, because that defense is easily the best thing about that team. Going to number 4, though, going from number 5 to 4 this week, we have, from 5 to 4, we have the Buffalo Bills going a spot. They're the 4th best team in the league, and they are the 2nd best team in the AFC.
Yeah, I think they definitely separated themselves from the Steelers, at least for this week. I think we got to see the Steelers put together a game like the Bills just did, because the Bills put it on a good team, a really good Niners team on the road. It wasn't a home game, obviously, for the Niners, but it was still on the road for the Bills, and they put it on a good defense there, coached by a good coach, and yeah, to me, they separated themselves from the Steelers for this week. Let's see how the Steelers can respond.
Exactly. Next team we're going to have going up a spot as well. The Green Bay Packers are the 3rd best team in the league, 2nd best team in the NFC.
Yep. The only part of this, I would love for you to switch the Rams for the Packers, but I think just on how the season's kind of shaken out this far, this is a fine power ranking, because the Packers really haven't had a ton of hiccups, save for that Tampa Bay game.
That's about it, right? That's really the only true blemish.
Really, the only kind of demerit they have on their record right now. And the Rams, they lost to the Bills, they lost twice to the Niners, and I think they lost to the Seahawks. Something maybe Seahawks or the Cardinals. So yeah, I mean they. I think if I'm taking a second team right now in the NFC to win a playoff game, I'll take the Rams over the Packers, but I'm cool with the Packers being here at 3 just based off their resume so far.
100%. I can agree with that one. The number 2, the 2nd best team in the league and the best NFC team, as we talked about, it's the New Orleans Saints. They move up a spot to the number 2 spot for week 14.
Yeah, this is
9-game winning streak, right? That makes you pretty hot.
Me too. Yeah, 9-game winning streak and undefeated without Drew Brees the last 2 years. Interesting correlation there.
That's a hot team. And of course, staying once again, I believe like for the 5th or 6th week in a row now, the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. It's close, but it's not that close.
It's not close.
Their offense is just so damn good. And their defense can help them win games. Also, as long as you have Patrick freaking Mahomes as your quarterback, you're probably going to be the best team in the league.
Yeah, I mean, this is almost like equivalent, and just at least in my eyes, the way I see this season shaking out, it's almost like when the Warriors were at their peak powers, and you just kind of assumed they would be in there at the end of the year, and
just who's going to compete with them.
Yeah, just it is the same thing. Their offense is just so deadly. Same with the Warriors shooting. So the Chiefs, they're gonna be in the AFC Championship. I would put a lot down that they're gonna be in the AFC Championship game. It's just, do they have a hiccup against the Bills? Do they have a hiccup against the Steelers? And who on the NFC side has any chance at competing with them? I think it's the Rams and the Saints. I don't think any other team has any shot, because those are the 2 teams that can somewhat get pressure on the quarterback. But I don't see this Chiefs team seeing much resistance this year. It's kind of sad to say, but that's how it is.
I guess to your argument, Travis Kelce's about to get his second Super Bowl this year and get that much closer to Gronk.
Yeah, just heard my own argument, darn it.
Exactly, right? And of course, we had the Rams, the Colts, and Titans. I still had them right there on the cusp of breaking into that top 5. To your credit, the Rams are right there. But I was actually really tempted to put them in over the Steelers. Really tempted to.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt a little guilty kicking a 11-1 team out of the top 5. But hey, next week, if they keep it up, I will be more than happy to put the Rams in there. But with that
I think you throw the Browns in that on the cusp graphic too there.
Yes.
I mean, okay, in a game against Browns Steelers right now, neutral field, who you taking?
Right now, this week, going with what's going on, I think I have to take the Browns. And
I hate it, but I'm going to take the Browns too.
I say that through gritted teeth. But
I know. I think I just looking on paper how they've looked over the past couple of weeks. And just
it depends on what Baker Mayfield we get. If we get the Baker Mayfield from a couple weeks ago, Steelers hands down. If we get last week's Baker Mayfield, I'm going Browns.
Also, something we're bearing with this Browns team is Myles Garrett is freaking incredible.
He's killing it.
He's so good.
Chubb, man. Chubb.
Yeah, I mean,
Kareem Hunt.
Chubb and Kareem Hunt, they're going to miss Denzel Ward. They need Denzel Ward to come back sooner than later, but yeah, sorry to get a little tangent there.
No worries.
That Browns team is looking really good right now.
We always love a good tangent. But on the back of said tangent, that's going to do it for us on this week of NFL breakdowns. This is, of course, for week 13. Let us know what you have in the comments, what you think about our buy or sell, what you think about these power rankings, whether you agree or disagree. Check us out on Twitter at 4th Long Radio, Instagram at 4th Long Radio. Check out all the recent interviews we've been doing, whether it be the UFC fighters. Just before recording this, I actually sat down with one of the youngest upstarts in the UFC in the women's division, Corey McKenna. And then we'll have that out soon. Randy Hahn, one of the most famous voices for NHL. We've had a bunch of legend Randy Hahn. His voice is it's just like cutting through butter, man. It's just
beautiful.
It's perfect. It really is. And also, the best part about this is that as a thank you, most recently, in order to kind of give back a little more to get some more content out to you guys, we have started a Patreon. So we have a few different sections right now. For just $1, you can get fan requests, exclusive voting power for the show, and of course a Patreon shout out or a patron shout out on the show. $5 a month, you can get all of that. Also, live chat with us and 10% off all merchandise. I'm rocking the nice hoodie as a little fleece stuff on the inside. Feels great. Alex rocking that Foodie is Underrated Tri-Blend t-shirt right there. Honestly, doesn't even shrink in the wash. It's fantastic. And then for our final one, our MVP tier, you get everything and then you also get early access to all interviews and behind the scenes content, which it's big, right? I mean, Alex could attest. Some of the stupid stuff we say before and after the show is fantastic.
Yeah, I sometimes have to look up and I kind of cringe whenever I see that recording button on before we start. Before my knowledge, so
always watching. We'll get all that fun stuff out to you and more. Just go on over to patreon.com/4thandlong and get started there. Of course, links everywhere. Just www.thefourthandlong.com. It's one link, one-stop shop for everything great. But Alex, it's been a pleasure. NFL Week 13 was just an absolute blast. I don't see Week 14 living up to it. It has some high expectations, some high shoes to fill. But we'll see. We'll be back here next week with some more NFL breakdown. We will see you all in the next one.
Peace.